There was this missionary years and years ago. I believe he was from Switzerland, and he and his wife were going to wanted to go on the mission field, and they decided to go to the Congo, which is today called Zaire. And so they were going to go to the Congo, and they went there, and they went to this little village, and another family went with them, and the other family, their last name was the Ericksons. And when they went to the village, the chief of the village would not let them in. So they built mud huts on the outside of the village, and the chieftain did not even want them to talk to people there. He allowed one little boy to go visit them and bring them things that they needed. Well, that's the only person they got to talk to, the one boy. So the mother, the man's wife, she wasn't the mother yet, got to talk to this boy, and she eventually thought, you know what? I can lead this one to the Lord. She led the one to the Lord. That's all. They're still there. She has a baby. She gets sick. I mean, and it's been so hard there. They're living in a mud hut. This woman gets sick and she dies. I think it's like just a few days after she gives birth. This man digs a grave there outside of the city, puts up the cross, and puts her name on it. He is so bitter. He leaves that place all bitter. He gives the newborn child to the Ericksons. He's so bitter. He gives the child away at that time. He moves on. He's in bitterness. The Ericksons, by the way, something happened to them just very shortly afterward, and they died. So this girl, this little baby girl, ends up in the hands of another missionary family who thought, you know what, we need to move her out and take her somewhere. So for her good, they move back home. They ended up, I think it's in North Dakota, of all places. So she was raised there, didn't know where her dad had gone, didn't hear anything about him. And one day, this is the craziest story, but look how God moves. One day, years later, she got a magazine from that was written, from Switzerland somehow. She couldn't read it, but she thought, why did this come to me? And she looks, and like on the back page, she saw a cross in the ground, and her mother's name was on it. It was a picture of a cross, and she's going, wow, this is crazy. This is crazy. That's my mother's name on that cross. She goes and she takes it somewhere, had somebody translate it, and it's the story of what had happened through this woman's life. And this woman had reached one boy, and the boy kept faithful to Christ. As he grew up, he built a school in that town, and he led people to the Lord. Pretty much the whole city, little town, had come to the Lord because of that one boy. And it was big news. I mean, it was recorded, and that happened. And this woman's reading about it going, wow, look what happened for my mom, because of my mom. So she wants to find her dad and tell him the story. And so she finally finds her dad. He's become an alcoholic. He wants nothing to do with God. He's like in his 70s. It's been all those years, like almost 50 years. This man has been bitter about a part of life that he didn't understand. All bitter, all upset, and become an alcoholic. And she's like, Dad, it wasn't in vain. You see, because, by the way, this man and his wife had prayed, God, please show us where to go. We're laying down our lives for you. Show us where to go. He thought God had forsaken him. She comes, she shares the story, and she shares how those hundreds have gotten saved. And like, Dad, it did make a difference. And of course, the dad breaks down. And over that time, he gives his life back to the Lord. And he ends up dying just a few weeks later. And I'm blown away by the story. But I'm looking at this and going, wow, all that man needed to know was God had been with you. It's not that we go through sacrifices. It's not that we lose things, but we don't want to feel like it's done in vain. We don't want to feel like there's no purpose to the sacrifice you've been through, like God wasn't there. It's okay that this man's wife had died now that he realized it wasn't in vain. We were in the will of God. God was with us, but we didn't know it. And what makes it so sad to me was this man lived his whole life under what looked like, the complete failure, because he didn't realize by faith. I don't understand what happened, but he should have said, I don't know what happened, but God's been with me, and I trust that whatever we've done, somehow God's used it. Sometimes that's just what you have to say. And sometimes you won't see until the other side exactly what you ended up doing for the kingdom. I think it was even after he died, this daughter was in a conference, and there was a minister from Zaire, and this daughter was in this conference, and she said, have you ever heard of this place and this town, this place? He goes, I'm from there. And this minister was the head of like 110,000 believers in Zaire. And he goes, I'm from there. She said, do you know the little boy? Do you hear the story today? He goes, I'm that boy. Can you believe that? He was the... She goes, this is unbelievable. She ended up meeting the little boy that her mom led to the Lord. And he said, you have to come back to Zaire with me because your mom is the most honored woman in the whole place. He says, it's just amazing. So I just want to leave you with that story today. I know moms do a whole lot of things and they don't realize, the importance of what they're doing. They're laying down their lives all the time, not realizing the importance of what they're doing. And I think for all of us, maybe some of you have been through some really difficult times. I want to encourage you. God sees what you've been through. God knows your pains. God knows your issues. God knows your problems. And He cares about you. He wants to bless you. And He is watching over all things. And I want you to understand this. He delights in pulling you out of where you have been and bringing you into a new place. And remember, all things. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter how things look. All things work to the good, for those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. You are not an exception. Your situation is not an exception. God sees, God knows, God understands, and God delights in bringing you out of that and having a testimony where you can taste of the goodness of the Lord, even in the land of the living.